Good afternoon. Welcome to Tuesday Tidbits with Jerry Hinkle and me, Trinity. We are continuing our study in 1 Corinthians, and we've made it to chapter 11. So I'm going to read some context here to put things into a little bit better of a perspective so we can know, a little bit of what he's talking about in here and how we can relate it to today. And then Dad's going to talk and I'm going to talk and we'll just do what we normally do, okay? So 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Mainstream churches in the United States no longer expect women to cover their heads in worship. But some women in Christian traditions and some women of other faiths cover their head for religious reasons. So you've got some like the Amish or the Mennonites, they wear head coverings. Their hair is always up in a bun and they wear the head coverings. I'm not really sure of other Christian
go on.
faiths or anything that do that, but okay. Several points make it difficult to know what to think about what Paul says. Paul's argument isn't altogether clear. Is a woman's hair her covering, or does she need additional covering? He also accepts that man is the head of a woman, an assumption not too shared universally in our time. He treats gendered hair length as natural instead of cultural. Some information about the first century will be helpful here. First, in Paul's time, the understanding of gender included a belief that women were susceptible to invasion by spirits through the tops of their heads. In fact, the head was viewed as a flipped version of a woman's reproductive system. Hence, veils provided protection. Second, Paul was concerned that women in Christian churches would be confused with the pagan prophetesses down the street who wore their hair loose and flowing. Focusing only on these problems, though, can keep us from seeing some important things. Paul expects women to have roles in worship as they pray and prophesy. He instructs men as well as women, and he recognizes an interdependence of women and men in the Lord. After he gives counsel about head covering, Paul offers instruction about eating and drinking when the community worships. In both cases, Paul is concerned about how members of the congregation conduct themselves when they worship God. Because they all belong to Christ and Christ belongs to God, their behavior should honor God. And this seems to mean not bringing the church into disrepute by behaving in ways the larger society does not understand. Paul has been openly critical not only of women's behavior, but also of the entire church. Participation in worship for women and men alike should glorify God and be in keeping with our calling to be holy.
Is that it?
Yeah. So in chapter 11, he talks a lot about, women should cover their heads and, the things like that. But that was back in their time. That was their culture. That was their traditions. Okay. Women enter into worship. They have to cover their head, But nowadays, it's more, we can take this, it's more of a respect thing, right? That's what you were saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go.
Okay. You got some more to read here in a minute?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Do you want me to read it now?
Wait a minute. You can wait a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Chapter 11 in Corinthians here. We're moving right along. Now, Corinth was a church in Greece. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't forget where we're at. We're in Greece. Paul had went there and they established a church, and the pastor, overseer, was Apollos, whichever you want to call him, and Aquila and Priscilla was there too to help get the church going and established and moving on. Well, now these are letters from that church. Now, when they wrote letters, they didn't have chapter and verse, okay? It's just a continual letter. Actually, they didn't even have any punctuation. They just went. They were asking for instruction and what to do in certain matters.
And Paul is responding. This is his answer to them.
Right. Now, that verse 1, first thing he said to them was, be you followers of me, even as I also am of Jesus. In other words, follow my example. Look at me and follow my example, because I am following what Jesus has taught me. Remember how he went over into Arabia for 3 years, and Jesus himself taught the Apostle Paul.
One-on-one, yep.
One-on-one. He had to, because the Apostle Paul was actually a scholar in the law and all the Old Testament things.
He was a big-time Pharisee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So Jesus had to come on the scene and wash his head, so to speak, and refill it. Okay? And that's called grace. God will do the same for us today. So he's saying, be you followers of me, even as I am a follower of Jesus. Paul is our example. You want to know something, get in the Word and find out what Paul is writing, what he said, and go. But you also got to take into mind what Trinity said. That was their custom back then.
Yeah.
And that's the way they done things. Now, she mentioned some while ago that cover their head. The Jewish cover their head. The men's got that little cap on them. The women do. Okay.
The women have veils.
And you got the Islam, and they cover their head, all, that. But for us today, it is not a necessity. Say it, necessity. Right. It is not a necessity.
It's not traditional for us to do that.
Now, I want to take another trail on this and show you something. God has an ordained order. Okay? That's what he has.
Yep.
Now, he's referring to also referring to respect, honor unto the husband and unto the church, the husband unto the woman and unto the church. Okay? Now, I say woman. I should have said wife, because I came through that organization, or that little thing, that any man thought he could tell any woman what to do, and she had to do it. Yeah. Well, that is not true. Husband and wife, that wife answers to that husband. Did you hear me? Now, husband, you answer to that woman. With those two come along beside each other. The word even says that God created that woman for me. Did you hear it? You got something you need to say real quick? Okay.
Well, when you come together, you're one. Okay? So you're supposed to come together and be one and unified, one body, one mind, one spirit. You know what I mean? So the man's not of greater value than the woman. But the woman was created for the man. It's his helpmate. You guys are teammates. You're on the same team and you're going towards the same goal. So instead of working against each other and, letting pride enter in, you got to come together and you got to work together.
Now, the word plainly tells us that the woman was formed from the man. It calls it a rib, but if you'll look and research that, they always told me man's got one less rib than a woman, but you don't have one less rib. That word rib is actually, God took a cell from a man and created the woman, okay?
Yeah, it says in verse 8, man didn't have his origin from woman, but woman from man. And man wasn't created for the sake of the woman, but the woman for the sake of the man. Verse 10, because of this, a woman should have authority over her head because of the angels. However, woman isn't independent from man, and man isn't independent from woman in the Lord.
Woman was created from the cell of a man, okay? And men, babies come from a woman. It's a circle. It's a cycle here. So,
but it's saying that, you
Mhm.
know, the woman isn't independent from the man, and the man isn't independent from the woman. You guys are together.
It's a helpmeet. You see? Now, what we see in society today, man, they putting a woman down, treating her like who knows what, or vice versa, when they don't really understand. Now, well, he's writing to the church. We need to understand that.
Yeah.
He's writing to the church. He's not writing to the world. This was taking place in the church. So he's saying, hey, church, realize who you are. God created man. Then he pulled the woman out of man, and because to help him, and then the woman gives birth to babies, and the man comes out a woman.
Yeah.
So it's a cycle. He's saying, come together here, and it's a thing of honor. Hey, honor that wife. You better, because she married you.
Yeah.
Okay? Man, you better wake up. Woman, you better wake up. That man married you. Come together. Hey, come together and quit fighting against each other and see what it does for you. Mm-hmm. Actually, it says in the Word that if they don't come together, the prayers are hindered. You ever wonder why things are going on? Okay, now it's an honor and respect. You honor that woman. Actually, the Word says the husband is supposed to love the wife. Then it doesn't say the wife's supposed to love the husband. It says
she's supposed to respect.
Supposed to respect him. Now, we go on here. I want you to study this out, Google it, find out some of this stuff. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. We're going to move right on here. But I want you to notice in verse 10, read it again, Trin.
Okay, hold on. Because of this, a woman should have authority over her head because of the angels.
Or covering, authority, because of the angels. Now, let's hit that word angels, okay?
Okay.
In Revelation, chapter 1 through 6, 7, talks about the churches and talks about the angel of the church. It's talking about pastors. Right here, it's talking about for the sake of the pastor. Okay? Now, because it causes a lot of problems sometimes. A woman ought to have covering or power or come under the authority of the husband, because it causes some problems sometimes with the pastor. If you're having counseling and this and that, and the woman goes berserk or the man goes berserk, it causes problems in the church and for the pastor. Okay?
Do you want me to read about the head covering now?
Yeah, I'll read that.
Okay. So traditionally, Jewish women have worn veils in prayer, and many Orthodox women still wear wigs or scarves over their hair. Covering the body is not always about hiding something shameful. In many cultures, it evolved as a way of protecting and honoring something very sacred. Something as intimate as a woman's hair is considered in Jewish culture one of the most sensual aspects of her appearance. It should not be shared with just anyone. This may help explain why, if a woman shares her hair with others by not covering it, she would receive the same punishment as the Roman penalty for adultery and have her hair cut off. While these words attributed to Paul seem harsh, we should remember that he affirmed and encouraged and included many women in his ministry. Christian women had a new authority to preach and prophesy. Notice that they were not prevented from doing this. They were asked just to observe the traditional Jewish custom of head covering so they wouldn't offend their audience. You remember last chapter we talked about, Paul was talking about being relatable to his audience. So, when he's talking to Jews who are educated in the law, he gets down on their level. When he's talking to Gentiles, he's on their level. When he's talking to Romans, he's on their level. He makes himself relatable in all aspects. This is what this is talking about. He's not, because it was their custom. So he's saying, when you are in the temple and you are preaching the word or you are prophesying, wear a covering on your head so you're not offending people, because while it's not a necessity for you to do it, just do it out of respect for the people that they haven't had that revelation of freedom yet.
Right.
Make yourself relatable, not offensive.
Right. Now, we run into I have a lot of men even tell me, a woman's not supposed to cut her hair. We talk about all the buns and this and that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But that won't get your feet off the ground any farther if the rapture would happen right now. It's just, it's just your thing. But
you have to deal with your own convictions. We've said before, everybody has their own convictions. There's some people that can, read certain books or watch certain movies or whatever, and some people that can't because it convicts them. Conviction is not a bad word. People think it's a bad word. It's not condemnation. It's your own conviction. It's your own, what you can handle. And if you can't handle something, don't do it. If you believe that you need to keep your hair long and you need to keep it covered, do that. That's fine. If you believe that, that's fine. We're not saying that that's wrong. You've got to deal with your own convictions and do only what you feel is right in yourself.
Right. And if you want your hair short, cut it short. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I'll sum that up with this right here, verse 16. But if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of God.
So, this says, but if someone wants to argue about this, we don't have such a custom, nor does God's churches.
Okay, so there you go. If you want your hair long, wear it long. You want it in the bun, put it in the bun. If you want your hair short, wear your hair short. Just do it. Basically, shut up.
Yep.
Okay? Now, he goes on here, talking about the Lord's Supper.
Yep.
We're going to cover that real quick here. It won't take but just a few minutes here. The Lord's Supper, or, the Last
Communion.
Supper.
Yeah.
Communion. Now, we purchased a box of
You want me to get them?
Yeah, grab one of them. It's already got the grape juice and the piece of bread that on it. Okay? And we do communion at home quite a bit. You can do it every day if you want.
Yeah.
But now we got this. I want to move it to the side just a little.
So it's got the little cracker on top, and then it's the little grape juice.
I'm sure if you go to church and they've had communion, you know what we're talking about. But I ordered these for me and us here that we could take it. If I want to take it every day, I do. If I'm not feeling well, I take communion because
I do too.
If not, one person asked me, well, what is this complacent thing? No. Well, my goodness, use your head,
And that's what Paul's talking about here. He's not saying don't do it. He's saying you've got to, you can't just do it out of custom or religion. You have to realize what it means, the significance of it. There's a significance behind it, and if you're just doing it just out of habit, doing it every day, and
this is the thing that we do. We're doing it. Let's get it over with. And see, we got the little wafer here, and we do it. Jesus said, "Take this and break it, and eat it, or put it in your mouth and eat it." And he said, "That's a symbol of my body that's broken for you." Okay, the healing, everything there. And the grape juice here
is his blood.
It's a symbol of the blood of Jesus, in which he wrote the New Testament. Now, if you don't have this and you want to take communion, you got water in your house, right? Take water, piece of bread, a cracker, just a small piece, and do it. It's not what it is, it's the symbol of what's being done.
And it's recognizing the importance behind it.
That's what it is. I know some people have a fit. But that's okay. I'm telling you, do it.
If you're going through something right now, you're going through a season, depression, whatever, take communion and realize Jesus paid the price for that. That's what it is. It's a recalling that Jesus already paid the price for it, so I don't have to suffer anymore. I don't have to deal with this.
He told his disciples, do this in remembrance of me. In other words, when you take this, you're remembering what he done in his body. And when you've done this, you're remembering that the New Testament was written in his blood, and the new covenant does not depend on whether we keep it. It depended on whether God the Father and Jesus kept it, and Jesus kept it. Okay?
Absolutely.
Now, what he run into here was people, they called together and going to have their communion or the Last Supper. Some people would bring an entire supper and come to the church. And kind of like, never mind. Anyway, they were piggish. Man, they'd set the table out there, and some of them jumped down, eat real quick, and eat, so make sure they got their fill. And by the time they got done, somebody come in a little late, there wasn't nothing to eat.
Yeah.
Now, that was not the Lord's Supper. That was just a dinner.
That was just potluck, yeah.
Now, he's getting after them and telling them, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
That is not the Last Supper. And in verse 24, all the way down through the 34 or 35 or 34, he tells them the order in which it is to be done. Okay? He says, you got to remember this. Okay? Verse 24, he said, take, eat, this is the body which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. He's quoting Jesus. Okay? Jesus broke the bread. Okay? Jesus broke the bread.
Now, this was before he was arrested. This was the Last Supper when he was having with his disciples. And, when Jesus taught Paul for those 3 years and wherever Dad said he was.
Yeah, Arabia.
Okay. Jesus told him, this is what I did with the disciples. This is why I did it. This is the significance of this. He taught Paul one-on-one and explained to him everything. So that's why he is quoting Jesus there. He wasn't at the Last Supper, but that doesn't mean he doesn't know about it because Jesus told him about it. Okay?
He knew the old Last Supper.
Yeah.
Okay? And Jesus refreshed him with the new.
Yeah.
Okay? And he said, take this bread. And then he said, take this cup. This cup is the New Testament in my blood. Okay? Things changed. Things totally changed. He said, do this in remembrance of me. Now, when we do this, we bring it into remembrance what he done.
So verse 26 says, every time you eat this bread and drink this cup, you broadcast the death of Jesus until he comes. Until Jesus comes back, which the time's getting closer and closer. But until he comes back, we have this to remind us it's been fulfilled. It's been paid. The price has been paid for. He died for me. He died for my healing. He died for my salvation. I don't have to. I don't have to suffer with anything. Okay. And we do take it on a regular basis. If something is going on with me, as long as I'm not nauseous. Now, if I'm nauseous, I won't take it because, I don't want to puke it back up. But, most of the time, like if I feel a headache coming on or whatever, I'll grab communion and I'll have Dad take it with me. And then we'll pray. If I, am going through something emotional, I'll take it and remember that I'm not alone. I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to suffer with this because Jesus paid the price for it.
Okay. Yes. Now, churches have got everyone afraid to take it.
Yep.
They think if you take it, well, they tell us, if you take it and you got any kind of sin in your life, you're damned to hell. Well, that is not true. That is not what these verses are saying here. Let's go with 27 here real quick. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily. In the original Greek, that unworthily is attitude, with the wrong attitude, not understanding what you're doing, shall be guilty of the body and the blood of the Lord. And if you don't understand what you're doing, and Paul's wanting them to understand what they're doing. Hey, this is not a picnic. This is a serious thing, an understanding of what Jesus done. He said, so let a man examine himself. I remember in church they'd say, hey, examine yourself, man. You stand there holding on to that pew, shaking like the world's coming to an end. He said, examine yourself, and so let him eat the bread and drink the cup, for he that eateth and drinketh unworthily, there's that attitude again.
Mine says, without correctly understanding the body. You're
exactly.
eating and drinking your own judgment, but you've got to understand it. You've got to understand the significance of this. Like so many things, Jesus taught in parables. There's a lot of symbolism in the stories. This is symbolism. This obviously, this isn't Jesus's real body. It symbolizes his body. He was beaten and flesh torn from him. He was broke, beyond. They said he didn't even look human. You couldn't even recognize him when he was on the cross. This symbolizes that because, when you get it in your mouth and you got your saliva, you chew it all up, it's not recognized as bread anymore. It's like soft mush, So that's what that symbolizes. It's a reminder of everything Jesus went through. The blood that was spilled out for him, that's what the reminder is. And he's wanting them to understand it's not, like Dad said, the potluck dinner or a picnic or a party. It's something to remember. Jesus paid the price for it. It's all about Jesus. Now, if you want to have a picnic or a potluck or a party, then don't say it's the Last Supper. That's what he's trying to get home to them and have them understand.
Yeah, and he said if you eat it or drink it unworthily, you eat and drink damnation to yourself. Now, what he's saying, if you don't understand it, you're wasting your time. That's all he's saying.
So, like, if you take it and you're wanting healing, and you take it, but you're not understanding what you're doing. You're just eating a tasteless wafer and drinking sour grape juice.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, you know what I mean?
Understand.
You got to understand the significance behind it. Otherwise, it's
not one of those hardcore things that God laid out there. It's Jesus saying, I died for you. I want you to understand that. That's all he's saying. And he said, because of people doing this, verse 30, for this cause many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. There's weakness, sickness, and death. He said, judge yourself. Do you understand it or do you don't? Or do you not? Okay?
You don't.
And when you judge yourself, then you won't be condemned with the world. Understand what's going on. And it goes on there, and in the last verse, he lays it out. If any man's hungry, let him eat at home. Okay?
Yeah.
Then when you come together, that you will not come together unto condemnation. The rest I will set in order when I come. So, he's saying if you're hungry, eat at home. But when you're taking the Lord's communion, understand. Jesus died for you. He loves you. He cares for you. He paid the price. And this is not a condemning thing.
No. But the reason he sounds harsh in here is because he's wanting to drive home the fact that this is a serious thing. This isn't the potluck dinner that you've turned it into. This is bringing it back to remembering why we're here. What Jesus did for us.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. He's wanting you to remember, so don't get scared, don't panic. God's not going to kill you like they taught us and everything. The Holy Spirit will reveal it. Just remember, we're not going to become complacent with it, but we're doing it understanding the body was broken for me. His body became sin for me. His blood was shed to wash away the sin, and now I'm in a new and living way.
And like Dad said, you don't have to wait to do it in church, because mainly churches only do it at Christmas and Easter, basically. We
used to do it once a month, but I don't even know if they do it anymore.
They don't do it very often. You don't have to wait to do it in church. You can do it at home. It's just remembering the significance.
Right. Remember, I'm healed. I'm saved, delivered. I'm in a new covenant with God. God likes me.
Yep.
Okay. We're getting ready to start in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Now that's going to be nitty gritty because he deals with the gifts of the Spirit in operation at the Church of Corinth. And they were in operation big time, man. And it was great, but it got out of hand, just a little bit. So they bring it back in. God had rather people do and things get out of hand a little bit, and he could bring them back rather than do nothing.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Remember, God loves you. He cares for you. And Jesus, he is Lord.
Amen. We'll see you next week.